The spotlight, a cruel sun, had always found Akira Seagal, not for her own triumphs, but as the glittering extension of a shadow so immense it threatened to swallow her whole, the shadow of her father, action legend Steven Seagal. But on a night meant to be her coronation, the lights didn't illuminate her ascent. They exposed a raw, festering wound, a scandal so toxic it threatened to derail not just a career, but a very identity. This is the story of a dream brutally crushed, not once, but twice, and the terrifying, beautiful fight of a woman who refused to stay down, even when the world screamed for her to surrender. Akira Seagal wasn't born into Hollywood's gilded cage, but into its volatile, often brutal outskirts. Her childhood was a whirlwind of dojos, film sets, and a father whose presence was as imposing as his on-screen persona. While other children dreamed of princesses or superheroes, Akira found herself drawn to a different kind of spectacle: the squared circle. The theatricality, the raw power, the stories told through slammed bodies and raised arms. It spoke to a primal part of her. She saw not just violence, but a unique form of athleticism, artistry, and psychological warfare. Her father, Steven Seagal, initially dismissed it as a phase, another one of Akira's eccentricities. He envisioned her following in his martial arts footsteps, perhaps even joining him in a film. But Akira was relentless. She devoured every wrestling documentary, every vintage match. She spent hours in local gyms, not just training in the family's Aikido style, but experimenting with throws, holds, and the intricate choreography of professional wrestling. Her natural athleticism, inherited from both parents, combined with a surprising grace, made her a natural. By her early 20s, Akira was a formidable presence. Standing at 5'9", with the lean, powerful build of a martial artist and the captivating, almost ethereal beauty of her mother, she was a walking contradiction. Her in-ring style was a captivating fusion. Fluid Aikido throws transitioning into explosive power moves, punctuated by a theatricality that belied her quiet demeanor outside the ring. She wasn't just Steven Seagal's daughter. She was becoming Akira Seagal, a force in her own right on the independent wrestling circuit. Word of her talent reached the behemoth of sports entertainment, WWE. A tryout was arranged, a grueling week of physical and mental endurance that tested every fiber of her being. She excelled, surprising even the hardened veterans with her discipline and innovative moveset. The contract was offered, a multi-year deal that promised a path to the main roster, to WrestleMania, to the very pinnacle of her childhood dream. Her father, surprisingly, offered a rare, genuine smile. "Go get him, kid," he'd grumbled, a gruff acknowledgement of her independent spirit. The initial months in NXT, WWE's developmental brand, were a whirlwind of learning and adapting. She honed her craft, developed a compelling character, a stoic, almost mystical martial artist with an unwavering moral compass, and quickly became a fan favorite. Her matches were consistently praised, her merchandise sales soared, and the buzz around Akira grew louder with each passing week. She was on the cusp, the inevitable main roster call-up looming like a glorious sunrise. The call-up came sooner than expected. A sudden opening on the main roster, a desperate need for fresh faces, propelled Akira into the bright lights of Monday Night Raw. Her debut was explosive, a dominant victory that showcased her unique style. The commentators hailed her as the future, the next big thing. For weeks, she continued her winning streak, building momentum, a championship opportunity seemingly within her grasp. Then the first bell tolled, not in the ring, but in the treacherous echo chamber of social media. It began subtly, a whisper, then a murmur, growing into a roar. Accusations, vague at first, then increasingly specific, emerged against her father, Steven Seagal. Old allegations, long dormant, resurfaced with a vengeance, amplified by new voices, new platforms. Harassment, assault, a pattern of egregious behavior. The claims were chilling, numerous, and sickeningly detailed. Akira initially tried to compartmentalize. "This is about him," she told herself, "not me." But in the court of public opinion, the sins of the father are often visited upon the child. The online vitriol began to seep into her world. Hashtags like Cancel Seagal and Akira Enabler started trending. Fans, once adoring, now looked at her with suspicion, even disgust. "She must have known," read comments on her social media. "She's just like him." WWE, a corporate entity acutely sensitive to public perception, reacted swiftly and brutally. Her storylines were abruptly truncated. Her airtime dwindled. Fan interactions were curtailed. She was no longer featured prominently. She was hidden, relegated to pre-show dark matches, her once bright star dimmed to a flicker. Backstage, the camaraderie she'd felt dissolved into an icy silence. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Whispers followed her like a shadow. The pressure was immense. She felt like an alien, a pariah. Every step she took was scrutinized, every move she made dissected. The media, vultures sensing blood, hounded her for comments on her father's scandal. She remained stoic, refusing to engage, a decision that only fueled further speculation and condemnation. "Silence is complicity," the internet declared. The ultimate blow came in a curt, emotionless meeting with WWE management. "Akira," a senior executive stated, his voice devoid of warmth, "the optics are untenable. We're going to have to put you on an indefinite hiatus. For your safety and for the brand's integrity. Hiatus." It was a euphemism for termination, a polite way of saying her dream was over, crushed under the weight of a scandal that had nothing to do with her actions, but everything to do with her name. She walked out of that office, not with anger, but with a profound, bone-deep sense of grief. The dream, so vibrant, so tangible just weeks before, lay shattered at her feet. Akira retreated. She cut off contact with the wrestling world, with most of her friends. She moved to a secluded cabin in the mountains, seeking solace in isolation. The silence, initially a comfort, soon became a torment, filled with the echoes of shattered cheers and phantom boos. She trained obsessively, not for a future match, but as a form of self-flagellation, a way to channel the raw pain and frustration that festered within her. Every punch on the heavy bag, every kick, was an attempt to expel the toxins of public condemnation and personal anguish. During one of these brutal, solitary training sessions, pushing her body beyond its limits, it happened. A misstep, a sickening twist, a searing pain that shot through her knee like a lightning bolt. She collapsed, screaming, the sound tearing through the quiet woods. The diagnosis was devastating. A torn ACL, MCL, and meniscus. A catastrophic injury that would require extensive surgery and a year, perhaps more, of grueling rehabilitation. Even for a civilian, it was a life-altering blow. For a professional athlete whose livelihood depended on their physicality, it was a death knell. The second bell tolled, its sound even more final, even more crushing than the first. The scandal had taken her dream, but the injury seemed intent on taking her very identity, her ability to move, to fight, to simply be. The emotional toll was immense. She had been robbed of her career, and now even the solace of physical exertion, her escape, was gone. Days blurred into weeks of agonizing pain, frustration, and despair. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the phantom sounds of a roaring crowd replaced by the relentless throb of her injured knee. The public had already judged her. Now, her own body seemed to be betraying her. Her father, surprisingly, visited. He sat awkwardly by her bedside, a man unaccustomed to vulnerability, even his own. He offered little in the way of comfort, but his presence, a silent acknowledgement of her suffering, was a rare and unexpected gesture. "You're tough, kid," he rasped. Always have been. It wasn't much, but in her darkest hour, it was a flicker of recognition that she wasn't entirely alone. The turning point came not with a sudden epiphany, but with a slow, agonizing grind. Physiotherapy was hell. Every bend, every stretch, every weighted exercise was a battle against pain and the gnawing fear that she would never recover fully. But something shifted within her. The anger, the despair began to crystallize into a cold, hard resolve. She started seeing her rehabilitation not as a burden, but as a new kind of training. Each rep, each step, was a defiance. She wasn't fighting for a crowd anymore, she was fighting for herself. She wasn't trying to prove anything to the world, she was proving it to the woman staring back from the mirror, a woman whose spirit, though battered, refused to break. She read voraciously. Books on sports psychology, stoic philosophy, tales of incredible resilience. She found strength in the stories of others who had faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles. She began journaling, pouring out her frustrations, her fears, and her nascent hopes onto the page. Crucially, she redefined winning. Winning wasn't a championship belt, not anymore. Winning was walking without a limp. Winning was regaining full range of motion. Winning was finding joy in the small victories of recovery. She meticulously tracked her progress, celebrating every tiny improvement. She also began to engage with her past, not to dwell on it, but to understand it. She acknowledged the weight of her father's legacy, not as a curse, but as a part of her story. She couldn't control his actions, but she could control her reaction to them. She accepted that some people would always associate her with his scandal, and that was okay. Her worth wasn't determined by public opinion, but by her own integrity and resilience. During this period, she started volunteering at a local community center, teaching martial arts to underprivileged children. She wasn't doing it for recognition, but for the quiet satisfaction of sharing her skills, of seeing the spark of determination in their eyes. It was a stark contrast to the performative world of WWE, and it was profoundly healing. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of purpose that wasn't tied to external validation. She also formed an unexpected bond with her physical therapist, a no-nonsense former athlete named Marcus. He pushed her relentlessly, but also listened, offering quiet encouragement when she wavered. He understood the mental battle as much as the physical one. "Your body remembers, Akira," he'd often say, "but your mind is stronger. It can rewrite the script." Months turned into a year, then another. The injury healed, not perfectly, but remarkably well. Her knee was strong, perhaps stronger than before, a testament to her unwavering dedication. But more importantly, her spirit was reborn. She wasn't the same Akira who had entered WWE. She was tougher, more self-aware, and utterly unburdened by external expectations. The call came unexpectedly, not from WWE, but from a burgeoning independent promotion known for its progressive storytelling and focus on genuine athleticism. They had followed her journey, not the scandal, but her quiet, determined recovery. They offered her a chance, not to be Steven Seagal's daughter, but to be Akira, a wrestler who had faced unimaginable adversity and emerged stronger. She hesitated. The fear of public backlash, of another crushing disappointment, was palpable. But then she remembered Marcus's words. "Your mind is stronger. It can," she accepted. Her return was low-key, unannounced. She walked out to a small but passionate crowd. There were no pyrotechnics, no grand entrance music, just the determined set of her jaw, the quiet strength in her eyes. Her first match back was against a respected veteran, a technical masterpiece that showcased her refined skills, her renewed power, and a subtle intensity that hadn't been there before. The crowd, initially curious, soon erupted in genuine applause. The online response was mixed. Some still hurled accusations, but others, many of them, praised her resilience, her obvious passion. A narrative began to shift. It wasn't just about her father anymore. It was about her. She didn't chase the mainstream spotlight. She didn't seek to reclaim her WWE dream. Instead, she found her niche in this new, vibrant, independent scene. She became a mentor to younger wrestlers, sharing her experiences, both good and bad. She wrestled not for fame, but for the love of the craft, for the stories she could tell in the ring, for the connection she could forge with an audience that appreciated authenticity. She developed a new finishing move, one that symbolized her journey. The Phoenix Rising. A devastating maneuver that began with her on one knee, seemingly vulnerable before exploding into a powerful, almost airborne strike. It was a constant reminder of her own rebirth. Akira Seagal never won a WWE championship. She never main-evented WrestleMania. The initial dream, brutally crushed, remained unfulfilled in its original form. But she found a new kind of victory, a deeper, more profound triumph. She built a career on her own terms, defined by her own struggles and her own strength. She had faced scandal, injury, and the crushing weight of public judgment, and she had not only survived, but thrived. The bell had tolled twice, signaling loss and despair. But in the quiet, unseen fight for her own redemption, Akira Seagal had rung a third bell, a chime of resilience, integrity, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And that, for her, was the greatest victory of all.